conflict of laws for the Illinois bar. First, torts. We have two theories, the first restatement and the second restatement. For a tort, the first restatement, the place of injury, always governs choice of law. So in a vested rights first restatement state, we're going to look at the place of injury. We're going to use that state's choice of law. And if we have a second restatement state, we're going to look at the state with the greatest interest. First restatement, place of injury gets the choice of law. Second restatement, we looked at which state has the greatest interest in applying its law. 144 factors are 1, place of injury. 2, place where the conduct causing the injury occurred. 3, the plaintiff's domicile. And D, the place where the relationship between the parties is centered. Okay, so in a first restatement state, who gets the choice of law? That's right, the state where the injury occurred, place of injury. What are the 144 factors under the second restatement for choice of law? Most significant relationship, place of, that's right, injury. B, place where, that's right, conduct causing the injury occurred. C, whose domicile? That's right, the plaintiff's domicile. And D, the place where, that's right, the relationship between the parties is centered. Okay, so first restatement, place of injury. Second restatement, most significant relationship, place of injury, place where conduct causing injury occurred, plaintiff's domicile, and the place where the relationship between the parties is centered. Okay, let's talk about statutes of limitations. In a first restatement state, a statute of limitations is procedural. The forum will apply its own statute of limitations. In a second restatement state, statutes of limitations are substantive. So first restatement, procedural. The forum will apply its own statute of limitations. Second restatement, statutes of limitations are substantive. So whichever is the state with the greatest interest, their SOL will apply. Okay, statutes of limitations. For a first restatement state, the statute of limitations is considered, that's right, it's considered procedural. So whose statute of limitations will we take? That's right, the state, the forum will apply its own choice of law. The forum will apply its own choice of law. In a second restatement state, the statute of limitations is seen as substantive. Second restatement, SOL, substantive. So who gets the choice of law? The state with the greatest interest. Okay, what's a false conflict? That's right, a false conflict is where only one state is involved. What about a true conflict? Multiple states are involved. Okay, so let's talk about torts one more time. What's our first restatement? Place of injury, choice of law. Second restatement, that's right, our 144 factors, which are place of injury, that's right. B, place where conduct causing the injury occurred. 3, the plaintiff's domicile. And D, the relationship where the relationship between the parties is centered. That's right. And for statutes of limitations, for a first restatement state, they are, that's right, procedural. So the forum state will apply its own SOL. First restatement, place of injury, they get the choice of law. And statute of limitations is procedural. The forum state will use its own statute of limitations. Second restatement, statutes of limitations are considered, that's right, substantive. So the state with the greatest interest will apply their statute of limitations. Okay, property. Okay, this is very easy. Real property, decedent's domicile of death. That's it. personal property, decedent's domicile at death. Real property is law of the situs. Now, what if the will is invalid as to execution? Then we renvoy to the state where the decedent died, decedent's domicile at death, or where the will was written or executed. All right, let's repeat that. For real property, law of the situs. Unless the will is invalid as to what? That's right, execution. If the will is invalid as to its execution, number of witnesses, holographic wills, whatever, then we are going to renvoy to where? Decedent's domicile at death, or where the will was written or executed. And what's our rule for personal property? Always decedent's domicile at death, always. Okay, contracts. Number one, if there's a choice of law provision, the courts will generally enforce that. That's the general rule. If there's a choice of law provision, we need to determine if the parties are doing something forbidden by the state with the greatest interest. Are we doing something against the law of the state with the greatest interest? So how do we determine whether what state has the greatest interest? Easy. We're going to look at the place of contracting, the place of negotiation, the place of performance, where both parties are from, and the location and subject matter of the contract. Okay, so contracts, choice of law provision, generally enforceable. If the parties are doing something forbidden by the state with the greatest interest, we're going to look at place of, that's right, contracting. 2, place of, that's right, negotiation. 3, place of, that's right, performance. 4, where the parties are from. And 5, the location and, that's right, subject matter of the contract. Place of contracting, place of negotiation, place of performance, where the parties are from, and finally, the location and subject matter of the contract. This will determine the state with the greatest interest. If the state with the greatest interest allows the contract, we're done. If the state with the greatest interest allows the contract, we're done. Okay, and that's short and sweet conflict of laws.